Greetings, owners of fine luxury cardboard rectangles. Can you feel it? The vibrations, the hype that is in the air. The new secret layers have been revealed, and they are god-themed, based on the old Theros gods. So what we're going to do, and in case you're wondering, yes, it is very cold where I am in Canada right now, and this is keeping me from freezing the old noggin. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at all of the cards that are coming in these secret layers, talk about the breakdown, and then at the end we're going to come back because there's actually a couple of issues that I have with this set of secret layers, and I want to talk about that. But first, let's get all the hype goodness out of the way, and then we will dive in to the not goodness. Okay, sounds good. All right, my friends, time to dive into the actual cards themselves. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go through all 15 of the cards. I'm not going to break them down into individual secret layers because I imagine the majority of people are going to buy these as a full-on unit. But either way, if you want to know, they will be broken up into batches of 3, so you can go ahead and take a look when you want to. If you're going to order them, obviously you can decide which ones you're going to order. I'm just here to get all hyped up about the cards, and once we're done getting hyped about the cards, then we'll talk about the few glaring issues there are with this product. So the first one that we're looking at has already been on the screen while I've been yammering here, and that is Helion, God of the Sun. And that's 1 white and 3 for a 5/6 legendary enchantment god. I'll leave that part off for each of the following ones because they're all legendary enchantment gods, and they are all indestructible. So, as long as your devotion to white is less than 5, Helion isn't a creature. Other creatures you control have vigilance. Pay 2 white and 2, create a 2/1 white cleric enchantment creature token. So this Helion is a token generator. Honestly, if you compare it to the newer Helion, he is fairly underwhelming. He's still cool. I mean, the fact that you don't have to tap him to make tokens is all right. The fact that you only need 5 devotion is all right. I honestly feel like they should have put 2 white in his casting cost to help move along his devotion, but whatever. And you can see Helion standing here in his constellation artwork, wielding his spear Crusaor. This is long before the days of Elspeth using belief magic to essentially rob him of his spear. Although he got what he had coming, let's be real, right? So that's Helion. Honestly, I will say, the artwork on these is nice constellation style, but it doesn't, like, some of it at least doesn't really scream out to me. Next up, we've got Mitra, God of Harvests. 1 white, 1 green, and 3 for a 6/7. As long as your devotion to green and white is less than 7, Mitra isn't a creature. Whenever you cast a creature spell, you may search your library for a forest or plains card, put it on the battlefield tapped, then shuffle your library. Now this is a pretty sweet card. The fact that it just ramps you like a madman is absolutely amazing. I really like the artwork on this one in particular, actually. Mitra here kind of reclining in a throne, very goddess-like. I can dig it. Not too much to say. Honestly, with the artworks, there's not too much to say overall, as they kind of have almost a homogeneous nature to them. There's just something about the constellation artwork, but we'll touch on that more at the end of the video. Next up, we've got Erois, and you'll notice this is another one of the multicolored gods. 1 white, 1 red, and 2. He's 7/4. Those are some beefy boy stats. As long as your devotion to red and white is less than 7, he isn't a creature. It seems like most, if not all, of the dual-colored gods do have higher devotion requirements. Creatures you control have menace. Prevent all damage that would be dealt to attacking creatures you control. This is a very aggressive style god, right? And that makes sense because he is the god of victory. So the fact that your creatures can't be blocked unless they're double blocked and can't take any damage is pretty insane. You swing with your creatures, they've got to put 2 creatures in the way just to stop them, and your guy doesn't get hurt. And you've got Erois, who is actually a centaur god, which is pretty cool. Most of the gods are just just have a normal human feel to them. Erois is definitely a different being. I definitely dig the flavor of this with his horned helmet, his spear held triumphantly, and his shield kind of back there on the one arm. Although admittedly, with the arm holding the shield, maybe it's because of the constellation dots, it doesn't look like he has a hand. If actually both of his hands kind of don't look like hands. I know that they're closed fists, but they don't look like it. Then we've got the old Thassa, 1 blue and 2 for a 5/5. As long as your devotion to blue is less than 5, she isn't a creature. At the beginning of your upkeep, scry 1. Pay 1 blue, 1 colors. Target creature you control can't be blocked this turn. Now, unlike Erois feels like he has a very particular direction. I'm the god of combat. Thassa doesn't have that. If you take her ability of scrying and being able to make your creatures unblockable, it doesn't feel like there's any connection between those abilities whatsoever, right? Thassa looks really cool here in this artwork, though, as a merfolk goddess, you know? I like that it's very, very clearly she's a merfolk here with this insane, long, snaking tail. This is one of the artworks I enjoy more out of the Secret Lair, without a doubt. But the card itself is okay. Just getting to scry and make your creatures unblockable. Blue tends not to be a super aggressive color in the first place, so it made sense on Erois where he's giving creatures menace. But her making creatures unblockable, yeah, I mean, like illusionary magic you can use to slide by your enemies or whatever. It just, I don't know, it doesn't resonate the same way. Then we have a Farah, god of the polis. So she is essentially the god of cities, right? So 1 blue, 1 white, and 2 for a 6/5. As long as your devotion to white and blue is less than 7, she's not a creature. At the beginning of each upkeep, if you had another creature enter the battlefield under your control last turn, draw a card. Now, I actually really like this. God of the Polis kind of ties in the same way into the god of knowledge as well, or goddess in this case, really. And you can see over her shoulder, she has a big old urn or some other sort of vessel that presumably would be full of like life-giving water, right? And water is something you need to have a city. You need to have a concentration of water for people to drink and survive. You have to have access to water. That's undeniable. In her other hand, she is holding these scrolls, right? And then basically as a god of cities, you're going to be responsible for all these developments and improvements that are a result of having these city-states. And I like the idea that as the population of the city grows, as creatures enter the battlefield, you get to draw a card in terms of gaining knowledge. So the more people you have living under city-states, the more knowledge that is gained, and that's reflected in this card. I really like the flavor of this card. It ties together very, very well. And I mean, 6/5 for a white-blue creature does feel like kind of gigantic, crazy stats, but if you picture somebody who's empowered by all of mankind existing in cities, you can see that it works. And then we've got Phix, God of Horizons, and also kind of God of Mysteries, the unknown. 1 blue, 1 green, and 3 for a 4/7. As long as your devotion to green and blue is less than 7, Phix is not a creature. You have no maximum hand size, and if you would lose unspent mana, that mana becomes colorless instead. That is a very, very interesting concept. You don't lose access to your mana. You don't lose access to extra cards in your hand. So Phix does indeed expand your horizons. And Phix is an interesting being because there's a level of mystery that goes along with this. Shrouded in darkness with just the 2 glowing eyes out of it, the 4 different arms with a human figure, but multi-arms. It's a funky concept. This is a very, very cool and mysterious god. I approve. Then we've got the original Erebos. That's 1 black and 3 for a 5/7 well, I said I wouldn't say that part. As long as your devotion to black is less than 5, Erebos isn't a creature. Your opponents can't gain life. 1 black, 1 colors, pay 2 life, draw a card. Now, this has a very black feel to it, right? The shutting off of your opponent's abilities to gain life admittedly does also feel red, but as God of the Dead, ceasing the gain of life and vitality very much fits into his flavor. And the concept of paying life essence to draw cards is a very black ability. Black is the sacrifice for gain, sacrifice for power style color. And it also makes sense that to the God of Dead, you would basically, it's like you're paying part of your life force to the God of the Dead. He's sucking away your life force with negative energy, but in exchange, he offers you knowledge. That is a really cool concept. The artwork is serviceable. It's pretty straightforward. It shows Erebos standing there with his giant mighty horns and his whip. Honestly, his whip is long and coiling kind of around there, but it just doesn't have it doesn't have the impressiveness that I would like to see with Erebos' whip. This is the whip that he uses to reach out into the world of the living and ensnare people and drag them into the underworld. That's a really cool whip. Honestly, I feel like I feel underwhelmed by this artwork. Although admittedly, these constellation artworks work pretty well as magic sleeves without all the text and everything laid over them. They actually look pretty good as the arena sleeves, because I was lucky enough to have someone send me out the codes there. It was a very kind thing of someone to do for me. So I appreciate Andrew who sent those codes out to me. I took a look at them, inserted it into arena, and the artwork is actually really nice. So it works better for sleeves than it does here on the card. The next god we're going to talk about is Phoenix, the god of deception. This is actually the god that teamed up with Ashiok to wreak some havoc. So 1 black, 1 blue, and 3, 4, 7. As long as your devotion to blue and black is less than 7, Phoenix isn't a creature. Creatures you control have tap. Target player puts the top X cards of the library into the graveyard, where X is this creature's toughness. So even just Phoenix being animated into a creature will let you mill Severin every turn. This is a weird card in terms of turning other creatures into mill bots, but it does make sense. I mean, all of his minions are going to be involved in these sort of dark intrigue that could lead to the loss of your sanity, right? And like, you're just being deceived and losing your mind. That's kind of the concept behind it. And the more minions he has in the world, the more of this deceptiveness that he can unleash on the world. I like the flavor of it. I also like the artwork. I like the lean that they've given Phoenix, where he's just kind of leaned back with his hands out claw-wise while his cloak is billowing in the wind. There's just something about the positioning of his body and everything that gives him that untrustworthy feel, and I dig it very much. I like the flavor of it. Now we're going to talk about the first Athreos, because this is the only multicolored god that got a second iteration in the second Theros. So 1 black, 1 block, 1 black, 1 blue, 1 white for a 5/4 indestructible. As long as your devotion to white and black is less than 7, he's not a creature. Whenever another creature you own dies, return it to your hand unless a target opponent pays 3 life. And Athreos is the god of passage. So he is your underworld, like the one who's in charge of ferrying souls from the land of the living across the five rivers that ring the world to Erebos' domain, the land of the dead. So the flavor of that is represented in an interesting way, where it's like Athreos will actually bend the rules for you. Instead of sending the undead over across the rivers, he will just basically allow you to bring the dead back into your service, bring them back to life. He'll essentially refuse to do his duty unless your opponent pays the toll. That's pretty funky. And the fact that it's target opponent makes it interesting politically for EDH games. Even though I don't play EDH, I do recognize that changing it from unless an opponent pays 3 life to target opponent pays 3 life does mechanically change how this card would operate. And the artwork is quite nice. You've got the shadowy, raggedy kind of skeletal figure of Athreos, and you've got his iconic staff there. He actually lays that staff on the water, and it creates a ferry for the undead to traverse across the 5 rivers that ring the world. So overall, a pretty sweet card. He's only 3 mana to put out, so this is a really solid god. This is one that would easily make his way into my cube. Then we've got the original Perforos, God of the Forge. 1 red and 3 for a 6/5. As long as your devotion to red is less than 5, he isn't a creature. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, he deals 2 damage to each opponent. That's pretty insane. And 2 colorless and a red. Creatures you control get +1/+0 until end of turn. His fire-breathing ability, honestly, isn't that hot. It's on point. That's actually kind of funny. Anyways, his fire-breathing ability isn't that exciting. It feels expensive for what you get, but it is a nice add-on. It's honestly whenever your opponents, whenever you have a creature come out, your opponents each take 2 damage. And the fact that he can be a big 6/5 aggressor, that makes Perforos worthwhile. He's not a terrible card. In terms of the artwork, he looks big and beefy. I don't know, this artwork doesn't do it for me. His hammer looks pretty cool, though, with the star shining in the middle of it like an embedded gem. That looks cool. He does look big and swarthy like a blacksmith would, so that makes sense. I can't put my finger on specifically what it is about this artwork, but I just don't care for it very much. The next god we're going to talk about is Mogis, God of Slaughter. 1 red, 1 black, and 2. What an evocative name. God of Slaughter. So he's 7/5. That's some beef. As long as your devotion to black and red is less than 7, Mogis isn't a creature. At the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, Mogis deals 2 damage to that player unless they sacrifice a creature. So, this is interesting because unlike Perforos, who requires creatures coming into play to deal damage, this one will punish your opponent every turn. You either allow him to draw blood from you as a planeswalker, or you decide to sacrifice a creature. So no matter what, Mogis will have his due. He will have his blood. He will take it out of the hides of your underlings or your hide. And I like that flavor. The artwork shows a big, beefy Minotaur god with a massive halberd with a wicked point. Most of the time when you see like a halberd like this, the axe blade doesn't travel down so far into such a wicked point. But it's just, it fits with him, and it goes along. When you look at his armor, you can see he's got a skull on one of the shoulder plates, and then running down along below it, he's got all these spikes poking off of his armor. And it's on both sides too. You can see it kind of in the back on the other arm as well. He's just interested in drawing as much blood as he can, inflicting as much pain as he can, just destruction. Send everybody on their way to Erebos. That is some dope flavor. The next god we're going to talk about is CATHARINES, the god of storms. 1 red, 1 blue, and 3 for a 6/5. As long as your devotion to blue and red is less than 7, he is not a creature. Reveal the first card you draw on each of your turns. Whenever you reveal a land card this way, draw a card. Whenever you reveal a non-land card this way, CATHARINES deals 3 damage to any target. So this has a pretty is-it feel to it, in terms of you have knowledge and electrical, like fiery and electrical style damage. That's the deal, right? What's going on here is in each hand, I guess he's supposed to, I think he's supposed to be holding something in each hand. I can't tell. You've got the reddish hue of red magic on one side, the bluish hue on the other side, with a little bit of the blue actually kind of overlapping the red underneath on the left-hand side. He looks derpy, let's be real. He does not look cool. He's kind of leaned back in a weird way. His body looks too big for his arms. He looks like one of those bodybuilders who spent too much time at the gym. It makes more sense for Perforos to look like that. And I think they were trying to go for the constellation lightning bolt showing up in his hand, but it doesn't really look like it's in his hand. It looks like it's drawn over his hand. So it looks like he's just like doing like a douche maneuver where he's like ripping his shirt open like, "Yeah, you want to fight, bro? I'm the biggest dude in this frat, nerd." You know, like there's just something about the artwork. Although admittedly his face a little shadowed with the one eye lit up with the constellation, his face has a dark menace to it that I like. That part is cool. And the kind of like sigil looking background halo in the back of the artwork is also pretty nice to look at. Overall, not too shabby a card. The artwork leaves a little bit desired, but whatever. Then we've got the original Nyla. 1 green, 3 for Nyla, God of the Hunt. She's 6/6. I love mono green. Other creatures you control have trample. Love it. 1 green and 3. Target creature gets +2/+2 to end a turn. Wow, this is garbage. Wow, Nyla is garbage. This card is garbage. I mean, yeah, sure, if you get the devotion up, you'll get a 6/6 creature, but holy crap. Compare this to the new Nyla. The new Nyla is miles better than this. You pay 4 mana for this just to give your creatures trample, and then you have to pay 4 mana to give one creature +2/+2? This is jank. This is from the days, like, guys, what you have to understand is for the longest time, green was one of the most underpowered colors in Magic. If you just started playing recently, like around Throne of Eldraine, you're probably under the delusion that green is like the powerhouse of Magic. Look at all the crazy green cards, everyone's playing green. But no. Green was like Garbo for the longest time. This Nyla sucks. This card sucks. This card sucks. And the artwork, she looks like a cone head. She looks like she has half of a Chinese fortune cookie jammed onto her head, or she went down to the beach and got like a conch shell. I'm Lord of the Flies, and put it on her head. Ugh. Ugh. I don't like this. We're moving on. I'm disappointed. This is the green card. Why? Okay. Calming down. Let's move on to Xenagos with his almost Medusa-like horns. His horns kind of got a Medusa vibe. 1 red, 1 green, and 3. Xenagos, God of Revels. Now, Xenagos is a cool character because he started out as a planeswalker who aspired to godhood. He aspired to become a god of Theros and managed to pull it off. And there's only one other story in my mind I can think of where somebody conspires to become a god and pulls it off. And that's Rastlin from the Dragonlance novels. And I loved that. So this Xenagos thing, he forced his way into the Pantheon. Because Clothice was down in the underworld doing her thing, he was able to just take over and be like, he's the god of partying too. He became a god, and then he just wanted to turn the whole world into an endless debauch, an endless like bacchanal of craziness. And I love that. So, 6/5, as long as your devotion to red and green is less than 7, Xenagos isn't a creature. At the beginning of combat on your turn, another target creature you control gains haste and gets +X until end of turn, where X is that creature's power. So basically, he makes creatures double up in size and gives them haste. I guess you could take, like, they're doing crazy party drugs. You know what I mean? Xenagos has snuck a bit of speed or something on in there. So the artwork, Xenagos looks actually pretty cool, man. He's got that interesting looking, like, javelin trident. Like, I'm not sure exactly what his weapon's supposed to be there, but it looks neat. It looks like a lantern and a spear combined. He's just kind of like it's like he's got the rock on fingers going on his one hand. Like, party on, bros! Let's do this. He looks pretty imposing and cool. And he doesn't have that big, like, barrel chested issue that some of these other guys are suffering from. I like this artwork, man. This is good vibes. I enjoy it. I enjoy it very much. And the last god we have to talk about is Fariq, God of Affliction. 1 green, 1 black, and 1 for a 5/5. As long as your devotion to black and green is less than 7, isn't a creature. 1 green and 1 black. Exile target creature card from a graveyard. Its owner creates a 1/1 black and green snake creature enchantment token with Death Touch. Now, this is weird because Fariq is supposed to be like the god of poisons and things like that, right? It goes in with the God of Affliction. And yes, it does make sense that, like, she's making poisonous snakes with the Death Touch. But the fact that you have to have creatures, like, she doesn't destroy the creatures to make these snakes. She just turns people's already, like, gone bodies, like, spirits already departed the body. She turns those into snakes. So it's a little bit weird that way, but still fairly on point for flavor. I don't know. The artwork is somewhat enjoyable and somewhat wonky. I like the fact that she is a Naga with, like, a snake body. That serpentine form is cool. Or a Medusa, whatever, a Gorgon, depending on how you want to look at it. I guess she might be a Gorgon. She is like a snake. She's definitely snake aspected. Her hat looks really stupid. Her hat looks really dumb from this angle. Her hat looks dumb, and her arms make her look anorexic. Her arms look too thin. It doesn't give an air of godly gracefulness. It gives an air of malnourished, which actually, now that I think about it, I'm going to change my opinion on that because she is the God of Affliction. So having arms that look kind of sick and wasted away, you could picture people envisioning a God of Affliction to look like that. So I'm actually reversing my opinion on her arms. They work for the flavor. And she has that giant snake. It might be 1 or 2 snakes, just kind of like swirled around her shoulders as well. This card has some cool flavor. It's a little bit off base with the ability, but overall very cool. The artwork is flavorful and pretty nice overall. I still think her hat looks stupid though. So that covers all the cards. Now what I want to do is go over the issues that I have with the secret layers, because there are some problems that I'm seeing starting to crop up and some changes they've made that I'm dissatisfied with. So let's hop over and finish up with that. All right, so as I said, I wanted to go through all the cards, deal with all the excitement first, and then come and talk about the issues that I have with these secret layers, because I do have a few issues. One is the price tag. These feel like they should have been $30 as opposed to $40. It doesn't appear like there's much justification for the cost of these overall. And there are other issues that I have as well. The artwork, I think what happened was Wizards was banking on the Constellation artworks being like a really exciting thing from the collector's edition. But we've seen that the Constellation showcases, they're not going over the same way that the storybook showcases did for Throne of Eldraine. They don't feel as inspired, they don't feel as beautiful, and in another way, they don't feel divergent from the Theros set, right? Like, they feel very obviously intrinsically tied into Theros, which makes sense because they are constellation gods and they did the constellations, but it's not enough to differentiate it. It makes it just feel not like these are reprints, but just kind of like they're part of Theros that's in print. And also, the secret layers were supposed to be more, like, I thought they were supposed to take more artistic chances and be more innovative. Like, admittedly, I didn't like the artsy, cutesy artwork from the cat, oh my god, cat box. But at the same time, I respected that they were trying to make something for a different audience, and that was something outside the normal realm. Secret Lair, I thought, was supposed to be a playground for new and interesting stuff with beautiful artwork, instead of just an extension of the current standard set. And to me, that does diminish the secret layers overall. And speaking of diminishment, they actually no longer include MTGO codes with the secret layers. Did you notice that? We only have arena sleeve codes. So they're actually reducing the value of these overall by not giving you playable cards on MTGO. And I really don't know why. I don't know if it's because they're trying to take attention away from MTGO and focus it on Arena. I don't know if they feel like they're just giving away more money by giving people copies of these cards on MTGO. But whatever it is, it feels kind of skeezy that already, like, secret layers have only existed for a couple of months, and already Wizards is starting to pull things back and put out ones that feel too expensive. So this doesn't bode well to me for the future of secret layer. Like, the Year of the Rats seemed like really cool, right? That was cool. And there was a bunch of previous ones that were really cool, with some hit or miss for me, but overall I could still say these are cool. Now, overall, I still think that the artwork on these cards is nice. These secret lair cards are nice. Don't get me twisted here. I would love to have these in my cube. They're outside my price range and I won't be acquiring them, but I would love to have them in my cube. And I do like the stylized sleeves on Arena that come from secret lair. So for me, secret lair is overall a positive. I just see what's going on with the price, with the pullback on the codes, and the fact that it doesn't feel as exploratory with his artwork. It feels like the secret lair is already starting to slide downwards. And with the way that Wizards operates, they commission art like a fair bit out, right? So I don't know if we're like already, I don't know if Secret Layers has already peaked as a product and is heading downwards. It's actually part of, I'm working on a series about the end of the paper era of Magic, and Secret Lair does tie specifically into that. It is one of the important pieces that help to illustrate the new digital era of Magic that we're living in, even though that may sound confusing because Secret Lair does have physical cards. Regardless, let me know what you guys think. I appreciate getting to hear your thoughts. You guys all coming by and letting me know. If you didn't know, yesterday I got sent like a ton of Magic novels. So we're gonna have a video coming up where I show you pretty much every Magic novel in existence. So if you want to check that out, make sure that you subscribe. Big shout out to my patrons and channel members. Thank you very much for supporting the channel. And bear in mind, like I said, the Patreon scroll with all your names is coming back to the channel soon. I'm working on a special ending to go with it that should turn out pretty well. We'll see how it goes. But anyways, make sure your information on Patreon is up to date in terms of name and everything that you want me to use for the scroll, because that'll be coming soon. So thanks for coming by, everybody, and I will see all of you, my friends, tomorrow.